California Adult Education Program, Technical Assistance Project.
So why the transitions between AEBG or AB 86, AEBG, and then CAPE? Why the transitions in those acronyms?
Oh, okay. So good question. I mean, this is another one of those, weird circumstances of bureaucracy at its best. So when we came up with AB 104, I don't know who had the great idea. Somebody had the great idea. Maybe it was Department of Finance or somebody, to call it the Adult Ed Block Grant. And block grant in the fiscal setting and in business offices carries a certain kind of connotation, a grant. So I don't think we ever thought that this would cause problems. But people, I guess because AB 86 was kind of like a grant, and the way the Chancellor's Office rolled out the money, you had to sign a grant sheet or a cover sheet for your share of the 25 million. So I think they used the same process for AB 104, and they called it the Adult Education Block Grant. So we had those same cover sheets, and we had fiscal agents. See, when the money originally came out, there was no direct funded member. You had to have a fiscal agent. And so we used this kind of contract process and a grant process with the fiscal agent. And so what happened over time is, because it was a block grant, the fiscal agents were treating it as a reimbursable. So here we had these poor K-12 and for the most part K-12 agencies that had to submit all their receipts and their justification in order to get reimbursed on a quarterly basis. And it was taking forever. Some people hadn't been paid in months. I mean, I think we had a couple of instances where they hadn't been paid the whole year just because of the reimbursable process. So as a result of that, I think 2 years into the program, when things got so bad, Department of Finance put trailer bill language saying this is not a reimbursable contract or grant. You have to get rid of the money within 45 days of receipt. The fiscal agent is a pass-through. So they clarified that whole fiscal agent relationship, and then they changed the name from Adult Ed Block Grant to California Adult Education Program. And so that name change is significant because we went from being a grant and a reimbursable to a pass-through, which got the money out a lot quicker. And then I think at that point, maybe it was the next year, they allowed for direct funded members because people didn't want to use a fiscal agent. So that kind of evolved in that first 2 years of the program. But it was really sensitive because we didn't realize how much problems we were going to have with making it a reimbursable. So, and I think you experienced that down in the Fresno area as well, right?
We did, to a point. It wasn't as bad because we have had State Center as our fiscal manager, and they have stayed our fiscal manager, and our board chose to keep it that way for, number one, participation of the members, that they have to come, because if not, it was just a direct funded. They just felt like, oh, I got my money, I don't need to participate. So they felt it was really important to keep that fiscal structure with State Center, and it has gotten a lot better. However, I think the colleges still keep the funds as like categorical. Am I saying that right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's hard. They won't hire anybody under those funds for a permanent position. So it gets kind of tricky, and it was a big struggle for a lot of our K-12s to hire people because they have known historically that adult ed funds are soft money. So it's taking a big push from me and the rest of our board members to note this is ongoing funding. It's so it was hard to trust, I guess, that the funding would really be ongoing. But here we are, 7 years later, 8 years later.
Yeah. One interesting note on the funding. So when that AB 104 bill came out, a couple of things that happened that maybe changed the direction of adult education program. First, all those, it defined what a member was in the consortia. So all those library literacy, nonprofits, CBOs, whoever else was involved in the planning, they left because they were not defined as a member. You could only be a community college, an adult school, or a county office, or a JPA, like an ROP or something like that. Other than that, nobody else could get the money. So we lost a lot of, I don't know, provider input at that point, depending on what region you were in. The other thing was the legislation didn't allow for any growth, or it didn't allow for any new members. So if you didn't get in at the get-go in 15, 16, when this money came out, you were at the mercy of the old members to say if you wanted to come on board. So let's say 2 years, 3 years into the program, if you wanted to join, that money was already allocated and they would have to give it up in order for a new member to get funded. So like pre-flex, we used to have a system where you would report your seat time, and it'd be converted to ADA, and then we had a growth mechanism. So if you were a new program, you could just sign up, get the approval to be an adult school, and then you'd start reporting your ADA, and then you could get growth. And so there was a mechanism to add new programs, but not under AB 104 and AEBG and CAPE. We still have that problem today where we don't have a mechanism, number one, for growth. We get the COLA, but if you're adding students and you want to grow your program, there's no mechanism to increase that other than the COLA, which just keeps up with salaries. It's not an expansion. And then we also have the problem with new members wanting to join. We have no way to fund those members unless people give up their existing funds. So those kind of things happen when we moved into the AB 104 arena. And we're still kind of trying to figure that out today. Still a problem.
Because legislation says, the AB 104 says no member shall receive less than they did the year
Yeah.
before. So that
Right.
kind of has been a hindrance, I believe. But yet also it's guaranteed that those people are going to continue to get that money. But now I'm glad to see that we're starting to look at performance-based, going a little bit in that direction, because that allows consortia to be able to take a deeper dive into what the actual members actually doing or not doing.
I think we needed a time to stabilize after flexibility. And I don't know what the right time period should have been. 4 years to stabilize, 5 years. I mean, we're like, 7 years? But then the pandemic hit. So are we stable? Are we ready to move into the next phase? I don't know. But it's kind of interesting how things have developed.
We're remodeling our plane right now.
yeah. The plane that's still kind of in midair, and we decided we put the wings on, but we decided we didn't like those wings, so we're switching them out.
Right, exactly.
California Adult Education Program, Technical Assistance Project.